Tonight, we're going to be talking about the Watershed Friendly Property Certification Program. This program is a partnership between Penn State Extension's Master Watershed Stewards, the Nurture Nature Center, and the original funding was provided by the Department of Environmental Protection's 2020 Environmental Education Grants Program. So this is what we're going to go through tonight. We've already had some introductions. We're going to talk about the watersheds we all live in and their importance. Then we're going to go through the different certification components and talk about the steps you can take on your property to make your property more watershed friendly. And then we'll talk specifically about the online application and have some time at the end for Q&A. Now, if you do have questions, you can go ahead and put them in the chat. Corey and Phoebe are going to be monitoring that for me. I lack the capacity to both talk and watch the chat at the same time, but they're going to help me out. And they'll either save the questions for the end, or if they think it's something, hey, we should really address now, they'll interrupt and ask me, and either way is fine by me. All right. So before we get into the meat of our topic today, I do want to share a little bit about the Master Watershed Steward Program. I know from the faces I did see in some of the introductions with Chrissy and Joe that there are plenty of Master Watershed Stewards among us who know probably even more about the program than I do, but we'll go ahead and share just in case anybody isn't aware of what it is. So the Master Watershed Steward program is a volunteer program that is designed to educate and empower volunteers to protect environmental resources. So we do 40 hours of training, and then in our first year, we give 50 hours of volunteer service and 8 hours of continuing education. And we continue that for years going on. So it's lots and lots of volunteer hours. It's a great way to get involved in your community and in the environment. It was launched in 2013, and there are currently 41 master watershed programs throughout the state of Pennsylvania. If you want to learn more about them, you can look at that extension website I have there on the bottom left of the slide. And since we are here in Chester County, I did want to take a moment to share some pictures from Master Watershed Stewards of Chester and Delaware counties. We are a combined program between those two counties. So you can see some of the fun things we get to do as Master Watershed Stewards. We give educational presentations like this one. We go to informational events. We plant rain gardens, riparian buffers. And the woman in the yellow coat there in the middle appears to be doing what I do for most of my hours of volunteerism, and that is help with water quality testing. So a lot of the programs we do with Master Watershed Stewards are actually partnership programs between things like EACs. And for me, what I do is partner with Stroud Water Research. And they have these water monitoring units throughout, they're called mayfly loggers throughout different watersheds. And volunteers go and help maintain those, check for quality, and make sure everything's working with those systems. So I get to do that on my weekends, and it's a lot of fun and contributes to the community as well. The other partner in this watershed friendly certification program is the Nurture Nature Center. Now, I'll be honest that I did not know what the Nurture Nature Center was before I got involved with Master Watershed Stewards. And it's really an interesting place if you get the chance. It's over in Easton, and it has programs that combine science, art, and community dialogue. Really interesting things they've got there up in Easton. They have an urban garden. They have lots of great things for kids, but just all about education and bringing the community together to support the environment, among other goals as well. So check them out if you're in the Easton area. So here's the reality of our conversation today. We all need clean water to live, right? Whether we're a human, a plant, animal, the family dog, none of us can exist. The web of life doesn't happen without clean water. And here in Pennsylvania, we can kind of forget about that because the water seems abundant. It seems everywhere. We have 85,000 plus stream miles in the state of Pennsylvania. And interestingly, we have the second largest number of stream miles of any state in the United States. And I'm just going to ask, can anybody guess what the number one, the largest number of stream miles of any state, the state that has it? You can just unmute if you want. Anybody want to give me a guess?
I'll chime in just to say I have no idea, but can't be us.
We're second. We're second. Alaska is first. And you think about how much bigger Alaska is than Pennsylvania, right? But we're second. So we've got 99,000 acres of public lakes and 376,000 acres of wetlands, and we use over 1 billion gallons of groundwater a day. That's a billion gallons of groundwater in our state. So we've got water everywhere, and we can just forget about it. It's great, it's there, we have it everywhere. Look at all these streams, look at all the rain that's coming, we're great. Here's the problem. You've got 27,000 miles of Pennsylvania streams that are impaired. And when we say a stream is impaired, it means there is pollution such that it is unable to support aquatic life or be used for recreation, fish consumption, drinking water. This is more than 30% of our stream miles in the state are now impaired. So we have a responsibility as a community to do what we can to prevent more stream miles from becoming impaired and to fix what we have already damaged as a human race with pollution and other things into our streams. But this isn't about being perfect. I want to stress that tonight as we go through kind of some of the steps that we can take as individuals. This is about taking small steps that you can on your property that are going to contribute toward the better health of our watersheds. You know, you're not going to take every single step today, but everybody can do something. And those small drops become that proverbial ocean. We all contribute a little bit and things get a lot better. Just again, to make sure we're level set, this is a very knowledgeable audience, so I'm guessing you already know this. I'll do it really quickly. What is a watershed? I keep throwing that term around. So if we look at the definition here, it's a land area that channels rainfall and snowmelt to creeks, streams, and rivers, and eventually to outflow points. Watersheds include two major types of water. Surface water, that's what we see in our streams, rivers, ponds. This is the obvious kind of water. And then we also have the groundwater, the water that filters into the ground and gets that great cleaning effect by the soil and the rock underneath the ground. And then it fills the aquifers. Now, I have to admit something here, which is that not that many years ago, I thought an aquifer was like an underground cistern, like a big bowl that was under the ground, and the water would just sit in there until somebody poked a well into it like a straw and sucked the water out. This may sound crazy to all of you, but if that's what you think, it's okay. That's what I thought too. I just want to share that that's not what happens. An aquifer, it actually has flowing groundwater in it. So we have to remember that all that water under our feet that's down in the soil, in the rock strata, it's not sitting there waiting for us to use it. It's flowing, and it is in fact intersecting with our surface water and bubbling up to become surface water itself. And the surface water is going through the bottoms of streams, lakes, and ponds to become groundwater. So the constant interaction of the water in our local watersheds and then out to the bigger watersheds as well. So here are major watersheds here in Pennsylvania. And I'm actually right down there at the bottom of Chester County, right by the little divot that Delaware creates. So I believe you and I are both in the Delaware River watershed. Susquehanna and Ohio are the other two major watersheds in Pennsylvania. And then you get a little bit of Erie, Genesee, and Potomac peeking in there from New York and Maryland. And then outside our major watersheds, everyone lives in a local watershed. So I understand from Phoebe at the top that you guys are actually in Schuylkill. So that's way up at the top. I didn't realize that you all were so far east in Chester County. So you've got those Schuylkill River drainages there up by Pigeon Creek and Stony Run. I am as far away from you almost as possible in Chester County. I am right on the margin of the Brandywine Creek main stem and the Red Clay Creek. So actually, I have a stream and a pond system in my backyard. They go into the Red Clay Creek. So I am in the Red Clay Creek watershed. Now, what I want you to just think about in terms of these watersheds is that, I mean, we put boundaries, right? We as humans always want to have, here's our county line and here's our state line and everything. But of course, these watersheds, they don't respect our boundaries. It's not as if a watershed stops at the boundaries of a county or a state. So if you look at where I'm at in the Red Clay Creek watershed, actually the water in my backyard follows down across the Delaware border, and it empties into a reservoir at Ashland Nature Center where it provides drinking water for northern Delaware. So what happens on my property and my neighbors actually affects the safety of the drinking water of my friends in the Wilmington area. So you always have to remember that you're part of a big system, not just your local watershed. When we talk about the certification, is a question always comes up like, why do I want to do this? It's going to take time. I'm going to need to take steps. Why would I want to do this certification program? The most important reason is what I was talking about before. It's the simple steps that we can all take to help make our watersheds safer, our water cleaner, help support local wildlife, bugs, and the ecosystem. Because if all of us take small steps, that can make that huge impact. Now, when you do the certification, you all not only take the steps on your property that makes sense for your management practices, but you also get this nifty sign, and I'm going to call Christy out. Maybe she'll show her sign later, but she has already done this, and Christy has kind of held up her sign at the beginning, so she has the sign to show us. Put that in your front yard, and now when you're out in the spring talking to your neighbors about your plantings or just hanging out in the summer having fun, and they see this sign, it's a point of conversation, right? Now they're asking you, hey, what is that? Why did you do it? It gives you this opportunity to educate others so that they can take those steps in their properties as well, and we start expanding that impact. So that is the value of having this certification, really. When we do the application, there are 4 sections: reducing stormwater runoff, reducing water pollution, conserving water, and supporting wildlife. So those are the 4 areas questions are in for the certification. So what we're going to do right now is go through those 4 sections, talk about some of the steps you can take on your property in those areas, and then we'll go into the certification process itself. Okay. First is reducing stormwater runoff. As it says there, stormwater runoff is the biggest source of water pollution in Pennsylvania. And I am betting you all up north have had the same experience we have down in southern Chester County of the amount of flooding that has happened. And it just seems like it's always getting worse. I know we've had flooding for years, but it just seems like it's always getting worse. And so not only does the stormwater runoff and the flooding create a lot of property damage and all sorts of bad things in terms of that property damage, but also when you get that runoff running across the top of the land, it's running across grass, driveways, roads, it's running across gas stations, and it's picking up whatever is on those surfaces, whatever pollution, or there's pesticides, oil, gas, trash, animal droppings, whatever it is, it's picking all that up and taking it right into the streams and waterways. So we're just, whatever we've put on the land now when we have stormwater runoff going right into the water system with no nice cleaning, by dirt, you don't get the filtering down through the soil, it's just going right across and into the waterways. So in order to understand how all this happens, we do have to talk a little bit about development. And I want to be clear here that I'm not saying that development is bad or that there shouldn't be development. I mean, we live in human communities and there's going to be development. We don't live in a perfectly natural environment. But we do need to understand how development affects our water system. So if you look on the left, this is sort of the typical picture of like a Pennsylvania forest, completely virgin, everything's natural. And in that environment, 40% of the water is going to go up through evaporations, back up condensation into the sky, right? 50% of the water is actually going to filter down to infiltrate the soil and become either shallow or deep groundwater, 50%. And only 10% of the water is going to be this stormwater runoff. So you are still going to have some that's only 10% of the total water. When you look at a very urban environment, the picture is very different. So let's say you have 75% impervious cover in an area. And when I say impervious cover, all that means is the water can't get through some kind of surface. So that could be a driveway, sidewalks, roads, the roofs of houses, the roofs of cars, whatever water can't, it stops water from getting down into the soil. It can even be an area of dirt that has been so compacted by walking, driving, that water can no longer get down into it. That could be an impervious cover as well. And when we have 75% impervious cover, we're only getting 30% evaporation. We're only getting 15% infiltration down into the groundwater, and we're getting 55% runoff. Well, that's a huge difference from a completely natural environment. So 45% increase in the amount of rainfall and the amount of the water that's going to be runoff. So what are we going to do about that? How are we going to take steps to slow the flow of stormwater on our properties? Again, I want to stress, this isn't about being perfect. You don't have to take every single step here, but it's about thinking, what steps can we take on our own properties that will make a difference? So one that's very simple is a rain barrel. You can catch some of that rainwater that hits the impervious surface of your roof, grab it as it comes down so it doesn't become stormwater flow, and then you can actually use that water later on your garden, so that helps conserve overall water as well. A rain garden is a great choice. It looks beautiful. You can put great native plants in there. You pick, if there's an area on your property that's like a swale, or you notice when it rains, there's like a path that water wants to follow, where it shouldn't be, but it wants to be there when there's a lot of rain. Well, when you put in a rain garden, you're going to put in plants that have nice deep roots. They're going to open up